Hey guys, welcome to Sopi Studio Umbiamas, conectando Aruba com o mundo via vídeo podcasting. Conectar conosco, compartilhar ideias e histórias para nos inspirar e para conan abrir. Sopi Studio é plataforma de podcast na Aruba. Follow-nos riba Facebook, subscribe riba YouTube ou riba plataforma de podcast preferido. Escute o podcast preferido que hora e onde cutar. Sopi Studio, powered by Credits, botiu ideia? Credits educava e prepara a abo para vir um empresário exitoso. De business plan, guia personal e préstamo para negócio até com 100 mil florim. Bira bom mês donho com Credits. Sopway, passa na Sopway para o sop, salada, wrap ou flatbread e mais fresco. Com 7 localidades rond Aruba, nós está cerca de Ibo. Sopway. Swing Masters, organizando events, conferences of weddings, mister de luz, sound, staging, DJ, trussing of flat screen, Swing Masters está claro para ser boa fiesta éxito. Swing Masters. E agora, Sopi Studio é plataforma de podcast de Aruba, está apresentar.
Sincerely Carolina is powered by Lindy Boutique, Proframe, Gelatissimo, Neutrogena, and Purina.
Hi! Welcome to Sincerely Carolina. Happy Monday. Let's see. I hope you had a nice weekend. I hope it was a relaxing one. Because the upcoming one, from what I hear and see, is going to be like an active one. So I hope you get to charge your batteries if you didn't in the weekend and during this week. So we're going to talk about a very interesting topic. I do want to start off by saying that some of, these conversations might trigger something. So yeah, just keep in mind, we will be talking about consent, which will obviously entail sexual consent, which might also include things like rape, coerced consent. So if these things, trigger you, make you feel not good, think about if you really want to listen to this episode or not, or make sure that you do enough safe space where you can deal with those emotions as well. So I just wanted to say that. And yes, I wanted to say thank you to Sopi Studio for allowing me to talk about this. And of course, to the awesome sponsors that make this possible. So obviously Subway, Credits, and Swing Masters, but to my amazing sponsors that think these topics are worth having. So thank you, Lindy, Gelatissimo, Proframe, Neutrogena, and I think that's it. Yeah. All right, so I have two awesome ladies in the studio today, and I will let them introduce themselves because I think that, they have very great things to say, so go ahead.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dina Alexander. I'm a relationship coach, and I am a sex coach. Yes, at SuccessBlizz and EnticeMe.com. So I have my own business for 2 years. So I have been, I have my practice and I have a lot of clients. Aruba does need this kind of help, education. And it's not only Aruba, it's all over the world. However, I'm here. And I do coach internationally, because we do have the 4 languages. So it has been a nice journey these last couple of 2 years, even though we had COVID. But and there is where everybody went inside and intimate. And then they got some stuff to talk about.
Yes, indeed.
Lovely. Well, hi everybody. My name is Arianne Croes, and I am a Independent Sexinista with Entice Me under the name Sacred Sisters Aruba. And I am specialized in sensuality, and I give Kizomba classes for ladies.
Ooh. So. Can you explain for a little bit what a Sexinista is? And I mean, I asked this, I think I know, but I do feel like I might have to be educated on that. So can you please?
Okay, sure. So a Sexinista is a person, it's like another name for a mentor that is specialized into intimacy, into accoutrements, sex toys, in a very upscale version.
Okay, yes. So I probably had that definition right, but I like how you said it. Yes. Thank you. So, I love that we are talking in a, I want to say, level of knowledge, not only on, the topic of consent, but also on intimacy in general. And also because I think that in our culture specifically, the topic of sex is very taboo in general, but also very primitive.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, for a lack of a better word, but yeah, something along those lines.
Yes.
So what are your experiences? I mean, all the way from couples coming to you with questions, because also, when we think about consent, it's not just with strangers or people we just met, but it can also be, within couples, married couples. So what is that like?
My experience is, I like to tell stories.
Yes,
okay?
please do.
Before I start talking about stories, I have two very two stories that they reached my heart.
Okay.
One of them I did tell already in a pillow talk about that story, but this time I'm going to do it here with you, Carolina. However, consent here on the island, I think nobody uses it.
Right?
Nobody uses it.
It's almost like a joke.
Yeah.
No, it's not. I don't.
I
I would
mean-
like to give it another name.
Okay, please.
It's like everybody has the fetish to be the macho man, and they don't even ask consent to come in your private space
Ugh. Uh-huh.
to give you a kiss because that's a fetish.
A kiss? I mean, if
You
you go to nightclubs, people are like touching everything, right?
Yes, and
Ugh.
everything
Yeah.
should be consent should be requested. Okay. However, if they hear me say talk like this, maybe they say, "Oh, you are so prude. You are no." It's my body. It's my space, and you are in it, and you should ask if I want you in it.
Exactly.
Yes. But however, as you know, we women here on the island, especially, they are very submissive.
Yes.
They cannot say no. I have a list of things. Let me
Please.
see. They don't know their own body. They don't know their own space. They can't say no. It's very difficult for ladies. They think that sex should be painful. They should. They should.
Like it's
experience
uncomfortable.
That. Yeah, that's okay.
And
You should feel pain, and that's okay because it's part of it.
They settle for bad sex.
Yes.
wow. Yeah, it's kind of sad if you think about it.
Yes, it's sad.
Yeah.
That's a good word. Yes. And you know what? My experience is 2 years. I tell my women, you should say to the man, you just gave me bad sex.
I think it's really great advice.
And they don't have the courage, you know that? Because they don't want to hurt the macho. And I have I'll dive into a story.
Yes.
I do help women start dating.
Okay.
So I had a client last year. I started. COVID just started. So she came to me. This is a client above 60 years. So her kid is studying abroad, and she has the money she wanted. She's not working, so she wanted something for herself. She came to me. She wanted to start dating. I do teach my clients. I have my procedure. Everything has a procedure.
Yeah.
So I have my procedures in dating, and I'm very strict.
Okay.
Because my dating system does provide happiness.
Okay.
So this lady went on, and she got to know a very nice guy with a very in the health profession.
Ooh.
So I had as a coach, I do provide the service. If you feel uncomfortable on the first date, I will go with you. I will sit on the other side of the room, but you'll pay me to feel comfortable.
Okay.
So I did that with her. So the first day I was allowed to go with her because she wasn't feeling comfortable. The second date I wasn't allowed.
Well, I do have to say it's a very safe practice. I think a lot of more people should do that. The buddy system, even if it's not like a coach, at least like a buddy system. I think that
Yes.
yeah.
But my
For
service,
sure.
I provide that.
Yeah, nice. Thank you.
You're welcome. So this lady went and they were intimate.
Okay.
And she came to me and she said, Dina, I told her, you didn't. That's part of, you shouldn't be intimate so soon. I'm a grown woman. I wanted that. So it's like I have that also. So she I asked her, did you have a good orgasm? She said no.
Oh.
And did you tell him? No, are you crazy? You should tell him. So they went intimate the second and the third time, and she said, "Look, Dina, I don't like this guy. I kind of told him you should go to Dina because you're not giving me orgasms."
Oh my gosh.
And he said, "Listen to what he said. He said, I'm into the health system. I know what I do." So she kept her mouth shut,
Wow.
and that's very sad. I like that word. That's sad.
Yes.
Instead of saying to this lady, you didn't, how can I pleasure you? I would like to learn and make something sensual out of it.
Yeah.
That's my first story. Would you like to tell Carolina
No,
something?
I love your stories, Dina. So what I can share is the experience when people dive in so quickly. They don't realize that they have to set their own boundaries. So the further experience wouldn't have happened if she knew that she didn't reach that experience yet. Because we get in the tendency to feel a bit like swoon in the idea that somebody wanted to go on a date with us. But it takes a bit more longer for you to feel that connection. That if sex is not in the relationship yet, or just the dating, you can see what the person has to offer. Instead of diving that quickly and then having that experience. So, and everybody is, I think, old enough to decide for themselves how they're going to handle that. So that's what I wanted to add on. Yeah.
Well, what I hear from, from this perspective and this story specifically is that I guess how we have been conditioned or raised, in a culture, but also globally, really, if we think about it, how we should perceive it. And that also means that, what you just said, so time obviously helps with understanding each other, which might also help with understanding how to communicate needs, whatever those needs may be. But, because women also feel like they need to gain some control, then what happens a lot of time that even if they're not ready and even if technically they don't really want to, in that moment, trying to exercise control, they just go with it. And then you get this. And then, you kind of, it's hard. I mean, how do you react to somebody who tells you that because they're in health, they know what they're doing? It's kind of like, I mean, it's so absurd that I don't think I could answer something,
If in my practice, I help women to get more self-assured. Okay. Because they are so insecure, they don't know their bodies. So if this lady knew her own body, she would have told this guy, hey, I need to come. And do I need to take out my vibrator?
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
If she knew, if she was self-confident and was not feeling less than, because this guy was in a position
That's
very high
considered.
yes. She could have told him, look, even though you are in that position, I would like, I do like you, and if we can, I would like to continue. However, but you are not providing, you're not helping me out. So do you want to continue or not? Yeah. And that will make him, even though think whether he want to continue and get himself educated or not.
Or not, exactly.
Another thing, a lot of women do fake orgasm. That's what this lady did. It's well known.
Yeah.
Okay, they fake orgasm because they are tired. It's like it's painful, and it's
basically because of the fear of disrupting the other person's ego, but yeah.
But fake orgasm, I tell my ladies, fake orgasms are like giving a puppy a cookie because he just ate your shoes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You just gave him a cookie and he ate your shoes.
Yeah.
He just used you. You were a slave.
Yeah. I think
Actually.
for a person to
Yes, but you are correct. I know. Yes.
And we should take care of our bodies. We are not slaves. We are goddesses. And if you know who you are, you would not let that happen.
Yeah.
And that goes back to the consent part, right? I mean, if you do not, like you said, if you don't know yourself, and that's another thing, you can be halfway and retract that consent and be like, you know what, this ain't it. And people feel like they can't do that because what you just said, you know, it's how you even perceive yourself in the first place in that interaction. Yeah.
I think what I wanted to say was, I think it's a poor sexual communication. People are not able to sexually communicate what they really want. But yet when they go on a date, the guy wants to have an experience. But yet for the lady, as we are pleasurable beings, it takes just much more than just that to make the person, and especially if they are a bit older, I would say, because these people know what they want. It's not like you get, for example, when we were younger, it's
Should
different.
know.
Yes, yes, exactly. So I think that consent walks with being able to sexually communicate. So when you ask the person if they want to connect with you, you should get a hard yes,
And
Yes.
like a really hard yes.
Yes.
And you know what? I do tell my clients, use the opportunity to start with your dirty talk. Like, let's take care of my clitoris, for example.
Well, that also has to do with time, right? Because if you had more time talking to that person, getting to know that person, you might have had the time to express those needs before it actually happens.
On the spot also.
Yeah.
It's a dirty talk. It turns you on. It turns the other people on. So you can use the consent part and dirty talk and educating at the same time.
Yeah.
You know where my clitoris is? Let's find it. For example.
And you should see then how the person reacts if they can handle it. Because it's not a common thing that men use here on the island. So I don't know how. I think some may consider it very, very
foreign.
No, but they would like it because it's different, because it's new, because nobody actually uses it.
Got it.
And I've heard experiences of people actually trying that.
Okay.
And it's a bit more, it creates another turn on. But like you said, it's on an extended period of time that you have spent that you could have sexually communicated and to get there. So, yeah.
So you said something really important, getting that hard yes, right? Why is it that people think that having that moment where you ask for that hard yes or express that hard yes takes away from, you know, the moment being hot or romantic or whatever? Why do we have that misconception? And you might not have an answer, but I just want to, you know, probe your brains a little bit and wonder from your experiences.
Consent is either yes or physical.
Okay.
So there are ways that you don't need to talk, and you are giving consent. For example, come closer.
Okay.
And he is allowed, she is allowed in the space. Or put your hand, and is this okay? And a nod. It's either consent, hard, yes,
Like
verbally,
yeah,
or physical.
And why is it then that people have a hard time, you know, with being verbal? I think we shouldn't have much discussion about whether or no, you know, when somebody says no and then you still feel like no, but I still feel like it's a yes, but whatever. But with the physical part, there might be situations where somebody, you know, might not feel comfortable saying no, like a hard no, but then they're shying away. But people, and usually it's men, but sometimes it's women too, that they feel like, but you teased me here, so you're just being a tease right now by pulling away, or how do we deal with that?
You want to answer? You want me to?
I would love to answer.
Okay.
Because and also you asked something right before that about being why there's poor sexual communication. Why is it hard for men or women to communicate sexually, and then to get to the part then of the teasing, etc., etc. So I think first off, it has to do with how society has taught us to perceive how to approach women, or how women should approach men. That's the first thing. How do you greet a person? How do you present yourself with that charisma, with that respect that you actually want to receive? Because if you make an approach inappropriately, you cannot expect that they're gonna like it. So I think how a lot of things revolves around how the market sexualizes women. That's for starters. That when men see women dressed in a certain way, that they think that is a yes.
Yes, the whole outfit is a
Yeah.
yes, right?
And as if we dress for them to say something, but we don't mean it. But I don't dress for, I dress for myself.
Yeah, definitely.
I dress myself. So
Mm-hmm.
so that comes to the part where there's a misconception to the teasing part, because they would say, you're dressed like this, you're teasing me. You don't have to say anything, but you're teasing me. We're not teasing anybody. We're not kids.
Or dancing. I mean,
Yeah.
right? Like if you think of Afro-Caribbean music, we are very used to it. It is very much part of our culture. It's not in, other places, but for us, it is. And for it to be something so common, there is still that thin line where people genuinely believe that dancing in a certain manner equals wanting to be touched inappropriately or even further.
Yeah, I get that a lot with my dance classes. Kizomba people.
Yes.
People usually what their reaction to Kizomba is that it's a very sexual dance. It is not, because we're dancing. We're not naked on the dance floor. There is no sexual intercourse happening. So people, it's dancing. We're moving our bodies very slowly. It's something different. So what I teach them is there's a huge separation into what sexuality is and what sensuality is. And I think that also has to do with how society has portrayed what sensuality is.
And especially for women, right? When women want to own it. Yeah. And again, once you step into that, then it means that consent must be given, right? Because
that's what I teach my ladies as well, because when they go to the dance floor and there comes a gentleman to ask them to dance, and nobody's gonna go grab you and pull you. No, they would have to hand out their hand, and then you nod, and then you go. Just like Dina said, you don't have to go say yes, but you nod.
But it has to be clear that you want to participate.
And there has been situations on the dance floor that when the lady wants to excuse herself, because this is what we're also taught how to deal with it in dance classes, that maybe there was not a connection between the person and the lady, or the guy wants to excuse themselves for any reason they have that they don't feel comfortable, that they can say, excuse me, I have to go to the bathroom. Or just
thank you for the dance.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
And consent can be broken.
Yes.
And it's allowed. You just need to follow your heart.
Yeah.
I would like to add on the beautiful stuff that you just said. Okay? Dancing is a thing. You know what my clients are telling me? Sometimes they need to relax and they use alcohol or drugs. And
that's
if you
also
are
very
intoxicated, the person that usually male, they didn't get any consent from that person. So there is a thin line there, and some majority of women is doing this because they cannot relax, and they use these substances, and it's all about education, Carolina.
Yes,
and that's what we do. We are trying to provide by through our work. And men and women, not only women, men and women. Men are not educated to become mature.
Yeah.
Yes, because they think they are allowed to spread their sperms everywhere. Yes. So I yes, we are on Sopi mix. We can say that.
Yes,
So the semen
My
retention.
topics are a little radical, but usually not so graphic. But yeah.
Yeah. However, we it's very important for the men out there that they are taught that you are really wasting your body.
Yes.
And semen retention is something that the guys, when I have my soirees and I educate on this topic, the guys are like, they say with open mouths because it's not known at this part of the world.
No.
So it's all about education and stopping the male to throw away their powers.
Well, I think it's also, it starts at a very young age. So, what do we teach girls from a very young age? And I have heard this a lot, with friends and stuff and their parents. There's a saying in papiamento, and I can't remember like how precisely it goes, but it goes something along the line that if men get in mud and they get out, then they come out clean. But if women get in mud, in the mud, then they're dirty or something like that. Yeah. And I always thought this was like, super sexist and controversial and surreal that people think that way, right? But it starts from such a young age. So women, I have, met young ladies when I was younger, when I was in college and everything, that they end up saying yes to a man that is very, dominating and even intimidating. And men will eventually even say things like, if the women like halfway kissing or whatever, say like, actually, I don't want to. They will say like, I will still tell people that we did this.
Blackmailing.
Ugh. Right? And then women are coerced into saying yes because it doesn't fucking matter at that point, right?
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
Yeah.
But it's how we're raised from a very, very young age. And I know it's I don't want to say it's hard because it's not hard, but it might be uncomfortable for some people to have these conversations with younger children or teens. But I mean, we have to start somewhere talking about that. It's the same act for two different people. There's no difference if it's what kind of genitalia you have. I mean, yeah.
I would like to share with you a story.
Please.
Thank God I cannot show you graphics. But,
oh yes. I think thank goodness for that too.
I had a client. She was into her 50s.
Okay.
And she was madly in love. This lady was madly in love, and she professionally she was successful. Okay, so her focus in her years growing up, maturing, was to be in the profession that she wanted to be.
Okay.
So intimately, she was like very unmatured, very childish.
Mm-hmm.
So she reached at a very mature age, 50-something. She was very in love with a guy. This guy wanted to keep their relationship kind of hidden because he had a hidden agenda.
Okay.
So, but she was so happy. She shared her experience with friends, etc., etc. So the information came to the ears of this guy. So he was very mad. So he went to her house and started making out, and he fist fucked her.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So this lady came to me and she said, Dina, it was very painful. What did he do? And I was like, that is a fetish that you should request for consent.
Of course.
You shouldn't allow a fist to enter your vagina like that. Mm-hmm. And it's like she started crying because she didn't know. She felt so immature. He was mad.
Yeah.
He wanted to
Exercise some form of control and power.
not even that. He wanted to lecture her. He wanted to make her pay for that. Yes. So
Wow.
these are happening here on the island. These things are happening because of lack of education. Because if this lady knew that this was a fetish and he should ask for a consent,
Yeah,
that was never allowed.
that's
And she should have, or not she, but he, I mean, it's also that idea that you can just do something. And even if you have been intimate before, people also feel that because you have been intimate before with someone, then the next time it's like given.
It's a
Yeah.
sexual assault what he
it
did.
is.
Of course.
It is.
It is a
Although they
sexual-
were intimate on a personal level,
Yes.
but yeah.
but it was painful and he didn't stop.
Do you think that enough people realize, and in this case, it was also like a very intense situation, but it could have just have been, where like he yells at her and then she's like upset and then maybe she didn't want to even have like regular sex, right? But how is it that we have such a hard time recognizing sexual assault?
You want to
Yes, because I think that people will talk to you, like in this case, she explained to you like what happened.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure at that moment she wasn't even aware that it was sexual assault. But I have spoken to a lot of people too, and they don't even, and until they talk about it, and you're like,
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I think one of the thing might be that they ignore their gut feeling. We tend to just brush it off because it gives you that bad feeling that you have to say something. And I have a story to share. So we're talking about this couple. So I know this younger couple. They were dating for a time, and the guy threw date rape drug in his girlfriend's drink.
girlfriend. Okay,
Girlfriend.
so not even a stranger or wow.
No. And the girl's experience was that she became ill because she had the whole bad trip. And then the guy tried to cover it up. No, you had too much to drink. And this girl actually, she knows she can handle her alcohol.
I mean, most people kind of know where they're at,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And people know when something's off.
Yeah.
Like, this is not how I usually react to champagne or whatever. Yeah.
And the guy tried to cover it up, like, no, it was, and she's not with the guy anymore, thank God. And but for me, hearing this story was, what was the guy thinking that it is okay to do something like that? Not even if it is with your girlfriend, because even your girlfriend needs
No, of
consent.
course.
So it's not like only people that you don't know, but even your former partner. It is something to do that you are also in the moment to be able to connect like that. So I think, to answer what you ask, people have the lack of knowledge on sex education. They do not know how to sexually communicate. They do not know what red flags are in these instances to practice, for example, BDSM or the fetishes to be, have a different kind of type of intercourse. You have to have permission. Doesn't matter how or whatever you're going to do, you have to have permission of that person.
Yeah.
So,
But, if I look back at... it was in high school not too long ago. So I would like to think that I can, when I also talk with the youth, which I do a lot, and the younger generation, and just try to check in to see how much has changed. And sometimes I'm pleasantly surprised, and then other times I am very upset that nothing has changed. But stuff like, sexual education. The truth is that we still talk about like abstinence, and then people don't learn anything. And then when it actually happens, people are too embarrassed, and half of the time they don't even know what just happened, right? Because people think that touching is okay, like it's not a form of harassment or assault. Personally, I would like to think that I'm very well versed in a lot of topics, but then once in a while, like the universe is like humbles you. But I was reading the law in regards to sexual assault and what specifically it means to penetrate, what is considered penetration. And I have to say that I was pleasantly surprised that it's pretty well defined. The hard part is that it's hard to confirm or to prove. But it's actually very well defined. But nobody taught us that at school. Nobody talked about just touching private parts is not okay for both sexes, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So then you have a bunch of adults not knowing what to do with their hands, basically.
Yeah. Carolina, I'm going to mention some actions that people think it's not sex,
But
it's not
Please.
intercourse.
Please.
Okay, oral sex. He or she or he, both, are not allowed to orally satisfy you without your consent. Punto.
Dina, just to add on to that, right? Because I have heard women, because women do that too, right? But they'll say something like, yeah, he was hard.
No. You are not allowed to unzip his pants if you didn't ask him first.
Thank you for clarifying that,
Yeah.
because I think that's important.
You shouldn't touch his intimate part or her intimate part without asking first or get some kind of consent, physically or verbally. You shouldn't. Kiss. We already spoke about that. We shouldn't kiss without getting a consent. You can get some STDs and that kind of stuff also from kissing.
Yes.
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 Some people, they said, he had, I mentioned one of these STDs.
Herpes.
Oh, for example. We didn't have intercourse, but I just kissed him. Oh,
Yeah.
don't you think you could have gotten herpes also? Could I? Yes, you can. So that's why we have condoms for the tongue. We have condoms for the fingers. We have condoms for the penis and for the vagina. So these things that are what we teach as Sexinistas. And I think we can be very free. However, we should know what we need some kind of procedure. For example, I had a couple that wanted to do threesome. Okay, because that's very in. It's in. So I do provide procedures. Okay, because I do think everything is possible, but nice and safely. So these
And with consent.
and with consent. Before this couple reached me, they had a story. They assigned one of those apps, swingers app, and a couple came from the US, and they went to Hyatt. Yes, this is a real thing.
Look at that.
And they got to know this couple. It's an elderly couple. This couple was, the Aruban couple was like very young, in their 30s, I think. So this elderly couple was like, they had pictures from their 30s, but they were really into their 60s. Yes.
So they catfished?
Yes. So the lady told her husband,
Oh my gosh.
we are just drinking one drink, taking one drink, and then we're leaving. So not to be like, not to say no immediately. I would have told them, you catfished me.
Exactly.
And I'm
No.
sorry, thanks, goodbye, I don't need this.
No drinks.
Because they were like, they wanted to, how could you call that? That's submissive. They were taught this culture, we cannot say no.
No. Yep.
So they sat, and they were the elderly men. He is a pharmaceutical, he had a pharmacy.
Okay.
And he went to take drinks for them. And the guy, after one drink, he was like very intoxicated. And this guy was a Dutch guy. So he could drink. He said, after one wine, I'm
Impossible.
Impossible that my tongue is so heavy. So they could walk and go home afterwards. But these things can happen. If you you shouldn't let, first red flag, you were catfished.
Yes.
No, I'm not allowing this. Stop this. I'm going to report you to the app.
Of course.
Yes? That's the first mistake that they did. The second mistake, you are not allowed. You don't know these people. They really want you. You are fresh meat. You should take your own drink and keep it with you. Otherwise, they'll have chance to put something in it. So these are stuff that's happening out there, and it's not good.
No. And I think that that's a very interesting thing because, now dating apps have become kind of the way for people to get to know, new people and possibly even start dating or even casual. But catfishing is a thing.
Yes.
And I have heard stories and also read, because I love reading stories about controversial happenings, but where a girl literally had to yell for help because she was catfish. So she was excited to see this person who she thought looked like, this. And then when they met, I think it was a club or it was a place where the other person, and I can't remember even if it was like same gender or not, but the other person just reached out and touched her in a very inappropriate way. And of course she got upset. And then the person's like, oh, it's me from, the app. And she was like, nah, you are not, this is not. And then the other person was really upset because, oh, but we talked all this dirty talk and stuff. And, she was having guilt feelings afterwards, like, should I not do this again? Because technically I basically said that I, gave consent previously, but then this situation happened. But anyway, she got help and she left, but she really wrote a story about it because I think I read it somewhere. But I thought it was very interesting that, oh shit, that can happen, right? It's not only getting catfish and you see them and peace out, but in a more scary situation. That's why I think it's great that you have that service with your services, because this can happen. And then you don't know who you're meeting. What if that person is kind of cuckoos,
Yes.
Yeah.
And I do think apps are a great way to get to know other type of men or women that usually
You wouldn't, yes.
you would never talk to this person. However, if you do it safely, then you'll be successful.
Right? But that's a very oh my gosh, that's a very interesting story that they stayed even for a drink. Like I would be like I think not. But yes, you say these things, and I also have a story, and I hope it's not too identifying. But in a neighborhood there were people who lived there.
That's a good one.
And it was a relatively young couple, and then all of a sudden they had this party, and from what the next door neighbors say, because I didn't see it with my eyes, but according to the next door neighbors, there was a swingers party going on. And there's a couple that lives in that house, so I suppose the neighbors assume that both persons in that household were participating. But turns out that one of the partners came back from a trip 2 days later, and I don't know how the person found out, and it was a massive discussion, right? And I also think that this is very important. So it's not only consent in the sense of directly when it's happening, but your space. So you were just saying about something like a threesome, just going out of that way. But maybe, she wasn't even safe to have that conversation, which also leads to other problematic situations.
Of course.
So I think that we should normalize talking about what we as persons personally feel is comfortable or not, and then what should generally be considered as unacceptable, period. But this story was very interesting because they broke up. I think they got divorced, and it was very intense. And different people see it from different perspectives. And I even heard the whole, oh, but yeah, that's disgusting and stuff. And I said, no, hold on. People in grown relationships get to do whatever they both decide to do. In this case, indeed, it was wrong because one person
Didn't get the consent.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
you know what? we were talking. You remember we were talking last night
Yes.
about the Aruban way of monogamish. Okay? So
Polygamy.
yes, so
It only counts one way.
Yeah.
usually, and it's a kind of fetish. So
Yeah.
we need to educate, make things normal, have examples, be the first Indians doing it.
Yeah.
About you said something. I forgot what you said.
About the swingers part?
Me?
No, Carolina. No, I'll get it back.
Okay.
This topic is very, very
Extensive.
I have
yes.
my back, yes, and that's my passion. So I do go into several
Segways.
yes into my head.
No worries.
These couples, they want to experience, but they don't know how. And I think the Aruba is changing, and we are in that. I'm happy that I'm in that change, and more couples are really experiencing. They don't need to go outside and hide, and go to these bars or tents where they can experience sex in another way. But here on the island itself, you can do it privately, safely. That's for me important.
Of course, because again, I think that we need to move away from the idea or the image that sex in general is something dirty and something, to be ashamed of. Because for as long as we hold that belief, we can never get to that point of having good communication. So if we don't have good communication, we will never have consent that is genuine and mutually beneficial, because at the end of the day, it shouldn't be a task. It shouldn't be like a chore, and definitely not an obligation, regardless if you're in a relationship or not.
Yeah. I would like to add one thing. I think it comes with people are taught at a very early age to be dishonest. That they just cannot be honest with their own truth. And sometimes honesty can be very sexy between couples.
Right.
And if it depends on how you make your message receivable as well. Because if you know your partner, you know how to talk to them and to be honest with them. I think honesty is something that goes a long way into how people see the monogamous relationships and the polygamous relationships. People think, how can I be able to have another partner if I have this partner? If you are not, if it's not something for you, it's not. If you're a monogamous person, honesty is still on the table.
Yeah.
So it doesn't differ from what type of relationship is of your preference, but honesty has to be on the table at all times.
I remember what you said. You said something about education, and it should start from young.
Yeah.
I do agree with that, because if from young, male or female, they know who they are, they know their bodies, they know they need to ask for consent or give consent, then you will not have what we have in the news nowadays about pedophiles and that kind of stuff. Because at an early age, women, they know that what's happening is not what should happen. Instead of taking part of mediocrity and then having to talk about what everything happened and during years of abuse.
Yeah.
And these are things that we should bring out there, even though it's hard. Sometimes I look at mothers' faces. Dina, how can I tell that to your child? Yes, you should. Yeah. It's your responsibility. If you teach your child to use fork and knife, you should teach your child on intimacy also.
Of course.
Yeah.
And a healthy way. But again, what you just said, if an adult doesn't even know what that looks like, it's very hard to teach. And I'm not saying that this responsibility should fall on schools and stuff, but I mean, if we're gonna talk about it, then let's include a little bit of that too. I mean, I do not understand, and I did a poll. So I did a poll about topics I should talk about that maybe are a little bit too radical and how people feel comfortable about. But I was very surprised. So I asked if people felt comfortable talking about consent. And 1/3 were like, no. And, I almost feel like it shouldn't have been a poll, but it was a poll because somebody said like, oh, but people may feel uncomfortable talking about this. And I'm like, okay, then I'm going to do it a poll. So I did a poll. And then I was looking it up for a person today because, they asked me like, are you really going to talk about it? I thought the poll was a little bit negative. So I was like, oh, let me go look if it was negative indeed. Because sometimes I do that. I'm like, I'm just going to talk about this anyway. Yeah. But I looked at it and I'm like, wow, a whole 1/3 thought that it was an uncomfortable topic. And that made me realize that, I don't have children on my social media. Children should not be on Instagram like that. But I mean, my age group is people who should know. And I hope definitely not be uncomfortable talking about this. So I wonder if that, this is a rhetorical question if you're listening. What makes it uncomfortable? Is it uncomfortable because they have experienced situations where they, actually didn't want to give consent and ended up giving consent? Is it that? Is it that you have participated in actions where you think the other person didn't want to give consent, but you totally, completely ignored it? I mean, I don't know. Let me know. We're live, so I can read comments.
I'm going to invite you to our mini soiree.
Oh my gosh.
You are a special guest.
I'm very reserved when it comes to that.
For this Thursday at Sfumato at 8 o'clock. You know why? Then you will experience that what you are asking now, you can see that it doesn't matter the age. They don't talk. They don't feel comfortable. After a lot of alcohol, maybe they can.
Okay.
It's a cultural thing. It's an Aruba thing, and it's not only Aruba because our Entice me is from California, and it's a world thing.
Okay.
Okay, Aruba. We our work is here on the island now, and we are going to the other islands also eventually. However, it's a world thing. Sex is a taboo, and intimacy is a taboo. Yeah. Okay, because they are not experiencing it. Everything outside is better than inside.
Of course, my radical self is thinking about religions and how things like that, contributed to that problem. But anyways, we can leave that for some other day. I don't want to step on too many toes on a Monday. But yes, definitely, and that's why, again, you do see it more in cultures that still adhere that image of, almost angelic biblical view of women and virginity and...
I'm going to help you out, Carolina. I was in a soiree. There was a lady, she saw my face and she said, what are we going... They didn't tell her what we were going to have that night.
Oh, wow.
She saw my face and she said, oh. So I knew. So I asked her, they didn't tell you that I was here, no? And she said, no, but I'm okay. I can handle it. That's what she said. I only read the Bible. I go to the church every Sunday.
Sorry.
Yes. And I
know.
I start talking about masturbation, why, the reason why, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, man.
And she is like, may I ask, isn't masturbation only for men? It's written in the Bible.
Because then you can't give Jesus a hand. I read a billboard about it. But yeah, yeah.
And I told her, look, if you can come here with something written in the Bible that only men or women or men are not allowed to masturbate, I will close my business. I will close it. But if you cannot come up with it, I'll continue and I'll be bold and I'll have education. So she came to me with a free discovery session and she said, no, Dina, it's nowhere written. And she got a piece in the Bible that states that you are allowed to have masturbation. In the Bible, Catholic Bible, it's written. However, there is another the Jehovah book. There is written that masturbation is not allowed. It's the only book that's written.
Well, I think that what happens is there's a bunch of interpretations and translations of this very beautiful book. Um, and what happens is that people tend to just give things meaning where there aren't any
Totally with you.
meanings. So that whole idea that, and I lived in Florida. Florida is backwards with a lot of things, and one of those things is that religion. It's that relationship with religion, and that religion with everything else, including intimacy. And there are literally like camps where they, take boys who parents feel like are excessively masturbating or whatever, and they take them to camps and, just basically teach them how God will punish them if they. So from a very young age, this group of people are learning such a bad connection to intimacy, to the point that when they have the freedom to exercise control on their decisions, they feel like they also can exercise control on other people. So this is a very unhealthy trauma bond happening that affects other people in the end too. And I think that, I know it's hard. Parents who might be listening, I don't think parents that do this are listening, but
They will
if you are listening, I do want to say that be careful what, kind of negative connotation you're putting on certain things, because if you're giving something like masturbation such a negative connotation, people might feel like you can use humans as slaves, for example, right? Because they already created a negative bond with this action. And I know that this is not the intended result of your parenting or of your belief system, but I do want us to kind of think about how that's actually playing out. And it's not positively. And you hear this, like churches, right? It's constantly in the news how consent is broken in churches through people who have authoritative figures. So things like priests and pastors, but also within the church, right? And it's,
They get advantage of their profession because their authority.
Yeah.
That's what they are doing. And it should be.
And just because you're in a position of authority does not mean that you do not require consent from the other person, right?
Maybe twice as much.
Yeah.
Because it's double.
Right?
Because you are in that authority.
Let's talk about that quickly. Let me see the time. Jeff, we don't have too many minutes, Jeff. I'm sorry, but I really want to bring this up real quick. But consent in, we talked about profession, so I really have to. But in the workplace, right? I mean, you just said that you might need twice the consent in that situation. Because, I mean, you'll see people, we talked about bodies, even touching people. Listen, I do not like greeting with kisses, and I know we're off the masks now, and it's like, woohoo, like, no hugging, please, no kissing, like, let me know you're gonna do it, and I'll decide if I want to participate. Yep. But you'll see that at work, where people will talk and then touch, and even if it's on the shoulder or whatever, people get upset when you tell them, like, no, and it's like, oh, you're so prude, or you're you're thinking bad thoughts, and you're the perverse one who's thinking that. I think it's important for people to re-listen, rehear what you just said, that even touching somebody else's body should require a form of consent. Yes. You do not get to touch somebody without their consent. Yes, period.
Totally. Period.
I mean, but especially at work, like that's weird. Y'all gotta stop that. Like, seriously.
But you know what, Carolina? Before I started my business, I was a professional. I was working with professional. I am still a career lady. However, I was working in a large company. You are labeled very soon as you are too dominant, you are too this and that.
The difficult one.
You're a difficult one. You are a prude. However, if we all start doing it together, then we'll not be labeled. And it's women doing this to women.
Yes. And I will talk about that next week. But yeah. Yes.
It's women doing this to women. So we, the sister, I like what Arianne is doing. The sisterhood should come in. Women should should arrange each other's crowns and not take them down and bully them and because of your insecureness. So we need to start maturing as women.
Yes. And again, circling back to the beginning, we do have a strong macho culture. That's the reality. And I do want to leave us with this thought because I think that not enough people realize this. But just because you're a woman doesn't mean that you cannot be, part of the macho culture problem. Sadly, the people that I meet on a daily basis or that I interact with on a daily basis, in Aruba tends to be more, macho than they turn to be like feminists, which is kind of upsetting. But we are indeed part of the problem. I mean, we do slut shame women all the time. We assign values depending on body counts and experiences. So I do want to leave us with that first of all, it's none of your business. And then second of all, I mean, come on. It's literally none of your business. And then second of all, just where's that coming from? Where did you learn that unhealthy relation with consensual relations, sex in general, intimacy in general, that you feel the need to undermine and undervalue others for their decisions?
You are out of your place.
Yes. So I do want us to, I'd like to give y'all a little homework. So that's that homework I'm leaving you, right? Where is it coming from that we think that we should, undermine and devalue people because of their choices and decisions, especially if they are consensual ones and informed ones. And also to think about your own boundaries. And I love the topic of boundaries in so many different ways, mental, emotional, but also physical. Think about them. And yes, you're allowed to explore and change your mind again and again and again if you want to. But please think about it. And if you feel like you might have been in a situation where you didn't want to give consent but gave in some way, talk to someone about it so you can work these feelings out and figure out what you can do next time. If you're a person who might have identified with a behavior that we talked about where you technically shouldn't have continued doing whatever you were doing, think about it, reflect on it, make sure that you do the work so you don't do this again. Consent is a very serious issue. We didn't say this at the beginning, and I feel like people might be confused, but Brian couldn't make it because he's in a concert having so much fun right now. But we didn't say it at the beginning, so now you know. But I would like to talk a little bit with him too at some point about experiences that how it is experienced in the LGBTQ community. And of course, there are many different experiences and it's a huge spectrum, yes. But I do think it's also important because I also think that we have the tendency to even more so devalue people who are part of this community. So I hope you learned something today. Dina, can you please relist that list you had of things that should require consent? Because I think people need to hear that one more time before we go.
Okay. I would like to say to everybody, consent, you either can say it, give it verbally or physically. That's number one.
It has to be clear, though.
Clear.
If there is doubt, it's a no.
It's a no. Yes. And if the person is intoxicated, either alcohol or through drugs, that is a no. No consent. If the person is asleep or unconscious or dead.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I feel like we shouldn't have to say that, but let's say that.
And we need to be clear.
Yeah, please.
We need to be clear. There is no consent. So you should stay out of that that part, intimate part there. So that is the list that I have. I would love to share, to give some dirty sentences. Dirty talk.
Okay.
You want to ask for consent? Do you have time for a quickie? That's a consent. Can I go down on you? That's a consent. Do you want to go back to my place to have sex? Let me see. I have some. Do you want to just cuddle? And then something else can happen. Do you want me to stop? Those are consents. You are requesting consent or you are giving consent. So these are nice way to spice up things, and then you get your clear consent.
Yes. Thank you so much for Dina for that, because I think that people might feel like it can be awkward, but a lot of what you just said is actually very common. People say these sentences, right? In intimate situations. So make sure that you're aware that you're exercising, asking, and then that you listen to that answer very quick, clearly. And like Dina said, at any point, people can retract that consent, and that should be okay. So before we go, I just want to say, so I always pull out like kindness cards, and then I decide depending on like how the conversation goes. But Dina, I feel like you are more fun than bubble wrap.
Bubble wrap? Oh,
yes,
I like
you are more fun than that.
I love bubble wrap. So I'm more fun than that. Oh,
yes. Yes.
I feel oxytocin losing now.
Nice. I'm glad I was able to give you that.
Thank you so much.
But yes. And to you, Arianne, I just want to say that you are wonderful for the work that you do, for taking, situations that might be considered not controversial, but questionable, something like sensual dances, and using that moment to teach others how to do it right, fun, but also safe. Thank you. Like, that is really nice work. So please keep doing that. And to everyone else who's listening, I hope that you learned a thing or two. If you want to share stories, not too explicit, I don't enjoy those, but if you want to share stories as to situations where you were able to give consent in a nice way, or maybe not, and that you want other people to read anonymously or even openly, so that we learn from those experiences, please do. I think these are hard conversations, but very important conversations. And if you have little ones in your life that you're allowed to talk to freely, have these conversations, especially if they're your children. I think they will thank you very much later. So yeah. Thank you, ladies, for being part of here.
Thank you for having us.
Of this episode. Thank you so much. And I will see you again next week. By the way, so next week, I will be talking about sexism and feminism. Okay, and I just want to say it like right off. You do not have to be a woman to be a feminist, okay? But we'll explain that next week. And as you know, Women's Month is coming up. So, of course, these topics are slowly transitioning into that. So, yeah, I want us to become better people together so we have a better community. And I hope to see you again next week. Thank you so much to our awesome sponsors, Sopi Make Studio. And yes. Thank you. Bye.
Sincerely, Carolina is powered by Lindy Boutique, Proframe, Gelatissimo, Neutrogena, and Purina.